Russell Crowe, in L.A. Confidential, you play a character named Bud White, a cop who you told me yesterday is not the sort of person you'd want to have stop you on a highway somewhere. What does that mean?
Well, I think Bud has a very clear version of what he sees as right and wrong. And I think if you come under his gaze, you're already in the wrong, you know. And he'd just be the kind of guy that you couldn't have that, "Good morning, officer. What was I doing?" kind of conversation with you. Right. It'd be, "Good morning, officers."
Well, this is a version
things
of justice.
Have changed. You know, police.
Oh, really?
Don't carry on like that anymore.
But this is a version of the justice that's dispensed throughout L.A. Confidential. I guess this sort of thing is a thing of the past now, correct?
Totally.
Cops don't take the law into their own hands.
And there's no such thing as corruption anymore.
I'll see. I see by your accent that you're not a cowboy, an American cowboy at least. If you're from Australia,
yep.
Tell us where and how you got to first L.A. Confidential and then Toronto.
Well, I live in the bush in Australia, about 7.5 hours northwest of Sydney, with me cows and me horses and me dogs and me chooks. Chook is a chicken.
Now, do you round them up on motorcycle or horse?
The chickens?
The cows.
No, on a horse, mate. You know, there is a bike on the farm, but it's like an 80cc thing. I bought it as a joke, you know, because I actually, you know, people assume that I would like motorbikes, but give me a horse any day of the week, mate. And you've got to have a spiritual relationship with a horse.
Okay.
That, you know, putting petrol in a motorcycle just doesn't get anywhere near.
And no matter where your career goes, do you intend on keeping that as your home?
Well, you know, I've been very privileged to be able to come to America and make movies for the last, you know, 3 or 4 years now. I come and do the job and I go home again, you know. I would prefer to just keep it that way, you know. I think there's an objectivity I have because of where I come from that brings a sort of fresh perspective to the work that I do here, you know. And I think Los Angeles, you know, for all its positives and stuff over a long period of time is kind of like a very draining city, you know. People all arrive in Los Angeles with great ambitions, you know, and they forget the point of the ambitions after a certain point of time, and then they're just ambitious, and they're ambitious to be ambitious, you know.
Well, certainly there are a great many people from Australia, filmmakers, actors, who end up in Los Angeles. Does it ever happen the other way around?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of American production being made in Australia now, you know, because you get, as they say, more bang for your buck in terms of, you know, your locations and your costs, you know. But what people have also got to understand is that film is not a specifically American medium. It's very hard to explain it to some people. Sometimes they don't really see it that way. You know, I mean, the greatest, you know, cinema like in the 20s and 30s was coming out of Germany, you know, and with the war that shifted and, you know, there was a migration to America. And I think Los Angeles is the center of the industry in terms of its in terms of being a worldwide industry. But as the studios understand now, you know, Europe is a huge market, you know, Asia Pacific is a huge market. Indeed. So it's not surprising at all that, you know, with that expansion, you bring in other people, you know, if it's technicians from England during the 60s, you know, or if it's DPs from Australia during the 80s, you know. When it comes down to it, you know, where you come from in reality doesn't mean anything. It's called acting, you know. You sort of like, you know, I'm actually waiting for the director who hires me as the black one-eyed American Jew. That's the role I'm looking for.
Let's go to a territory almost as mythical to many of us as the Australian outback, and that's L.A. in L.A. Confidential. Take us to the set, recreating a 50s milieu with the great cinematographer Dante Spinotti. You do a great Spinotti.
I thought it was, when I heard his name first, I thought it was a pasta. Yeah, I'll have the Spinotti, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I've worked before with Dante on a movie called Quick and the Dead, the Sam Raimi film, you know, so we have a great relationship. But, you know, Dante is true artist, you know. We're on like day 5 of a 3-day shoot at one particular time, and I've got no dialogue in that scene, you know, so I'm like, what's going on? So I asked him, you know, and he just has this beautiful, sonorous Italian accent, you know. Actually, I'll tell you a better story. I'll tell you a better story from The Quick and the Dead. I'm doing this love scene, it's not in the American version, with Sharon Stone, you know. And Sharon has decided that the water is very sexy, running water. So that's fine. your opinion. So we've got this drip coming down from the ceiling. It just happens to be falling right in the center of my head, which is like the Chinese water torture after about 2 minutes, you know. And every time we cut, they cut the water off, and then they've got to reset the level of the drip, you know. So I've got Dante like leaning all over me, like kind of counting the drips every 3 seconds with this big cigar hanging out his mouth, going, like this, you know. Come on. And he's calling out to this guy who's in charge of the tap. He's going, more on. The guy goes, shut up, you dago bastard.
Yes. Too bad we're out of time. I love your Spinati impersonations. I mean, temperament on the set, of course, is something you have to work with, but alas, our time has flown. Thank you, Russell Crowe.
Cheers.
Talking about Australia and another mythic country called Los Angeles in LA Confidential. We're here in Toronto. I'm John Tibbetts for KCTV5.